Hi, this is Toy Lay again with educator.com. Once again, to a quick review, we are learning about jQuery and Ajax. Today's a little bit of a departure from Ajax. We're going to talk about effects because once again, if you remember from the very first lesson, I mentioned that even though Ajax is specifically doing a back-end web request from the front end, anything that's kind of looking like this kind of insta feedback stuff is now being called Ajax by people who are clients and not web developers. So let's talk about this in terms of how clients would see it. We're talking about effects now. jQuery comes loaded with a bunch of effects and kind of makes a nice kind of, again, more humanistic feel to an understanding of how when you kind of give that interaction with somebody. It's not just return data and we're done. It's like return data, make it look nice, make it slide, make it... And some people have done some amazing, mind-boggling things with just these jQuery effects, which are fantastic. And a slider is a very good example of that. Well, we'll get to it. We'll start with the basics, and then I would love it, once again, if you... go out and experiment. Show me your stuff. Okay? So, let's get to it. Once again, we have my play area. I've set up on the left side my play area, which looks like this. This is my play area. I've set up stuff with 2 images and 2 images and an input area text box, and on the right side a bunch of commands that I want to build out to play with the stuff in the play area. Okay, and that's all this stuff. Okay, so we're going to start off with the animate method, which looks something like this. So let's do something like what's this button called? Let's do something with this button, animate A. When I click on that button, we're going to animate something. What's it going to turn out looking like? I'm not sure. Probably not so brilliant just because I'm not a designer or an animator, but you get the point. Okay, so let's do this. Let's start it off. Let's kick it off. Animate A. When we click on it, typing issues. Okay. All right, when we click on it, let's say let's make this Battlestar Galactica picture do something. So that Battlestar Galactica picture, and we can start doing shortcuts now here. Once again, my favorite stuff, Firebug. Install it if you're going to do a lot of development. Even if you're going to do a little development, install it on your machine. It is your best friend. We can inspect this image, and we know it's called BG. I am so clever with my naming conventions. Battlestar Galactica BG. Okay, so let's do this. So when I click the animate button, I want the BG image to animate. Now, animate, let's take a moment to discuss animate. Animate is one of those overall functions. We saw that in one of the previous lessons with Ajax. Ajax was an overall method. And then jQuery provided you with a bunch of sub-methods, meaning it was all kind of, they were everything that Ajax could do. Well, not everything that Ajax could do. It was all streamlined. It was like a subset of what Ajax could do. And just like before, animate is the overall method that you use, and then we've got a bunch of others stuff that does the same thing, or does parts of animate. So, so let's start off with animate, because then you'll see how we can manipulate the other stuff, not using the whole animate function. So animate, once again, if you look it up in the jQuery documentation, has a bunch of parameters that you can fill out or choose not to fill out. It's really, really confusing. But once you kind of get a handle on it, it kind of makes a little bit more sense. But sometimes you just don't want to be that detailed, and you use one of the subset methods. So, but let's start with animate first. When I click on the animate button, I want the Battlestar Galactica image to reduce in opacity. I'm just going to kick out some stuff here to 0.24, some random number. We also want to maybe by the way, this is wrong. That's better. We also want to maybe toggle the height, meaning we want this to shrink. We want it to shrink via a toggle effect. And then, well, let's just start with that. Okay. We want it to do it within 5,000 milliseconds, which turns out to be 5 seconds. And then some people do this because they feel like it makes it more complete. I don't always, but let's just say that. That's like a callback. It's a callback parameter here. Okay? So to get the tabbing right so that you see what this is doing, this goes here. Let's do it this way. Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3 parameters that we're going to be using. All right, let's see if that actually does something. Animate image. It does nothing, so let's check our console, and there's a syntax error, because I am just the most brilliant typer ever. Let's see if we could find our syntax error, and that belongs over here. Animate function, and that should work. Let's try that. And there's a missing after the argument, line 11, by the way. After the argument list. Ah, yes, there is. It goes here. There we go. Let's try that. Ah, no errors, thank God. Here we go. Animate images. Let's see it do something. There it goes. You see the opacity is going down, and the height is shrinking based, saying we toggling it out of existence with the height. So, all right. So let's, now that we've done that, we can start hitting up these sub methods. All right. If we look at my presentation here, we can do a show and hide. So let's do the same thing. Let's show. We're basically showing and hiding. We're basically hiding the background image, but we're doing it in a fancy way by changing the height. Okay. So let's just kind of do a simple sub method here and just show it and hide it. All right, so let's do $J. Let's see, what is this called? Show A. We've got a button called Show A. Dot show A. And when we click on that button, we want the Battlestar Galactica image to show. It's really that simple. And similarly, when we hit the hide button, we want the Battlestar Galactica image to hide. Now, let's reload this. And if I hit show, it shows. It's already showing, so that won't do anything. But if I do a hide, it hides. Now, because it is a subset, it doesn't do that height toggling, but it does do a toggle. You can give it a command to do a slow or fast movement. But you don't necessarily give it these little details of doing it via height, doing it in 5 seconds, or doing it in 10 seconds, or doing it in 1.5 seconds. You give it a slow. So let's hide this. Bam, it pops out. As we know, we just gave it nothing, so it just turns it right off. Let's show it now. And now it's doing it in this kind of slow showing. All right? Now, those show and hide are for particular uses. I personally like to use toggle. And the reason why I like to use toggle is because it's just one button. Just one button, and it turns them both on and off. So let's try that. Let's do, I think this is probably called toggle A. And again, there's a fast. So let's try the fast. Okay, so let's do that. So we've got the show, we've got the hide, we've got the show. Let's toggle it. There you go. That's a fast toggle right there. One button does it all. I like that. Great for stuff like in usage of accordions, or when you want to show additional information and then unshow it once a person's already read it, because perhaps there's not enough real estate, or a bunch of text makes your site look really cluttered. You can just hide it in a small div, and then you can and say put a little link, say for more information, click on there, and then it pops it open, and then for less information you unpop it open. Great for that. Great usage for that. Even better than toggle is slide toggle, because it gives you a little more fancy stuff. Let's do this in a slow. A little more fancy. Let's get that slide. That's what you really would use in an accordion. I use that all the time in an accordion. Actually, I use that all the time in overlays, where you have where you blacken out the background and you pop open a screen and you show videos in it. Use that all the time. It's great. It makes people go, ooh, so simple. Just one command. And yet all these still work too on their own. Fantastic. Great, huh? Okay. So now, once again, you can hit up the jQuery documentation, and these sub-methods do take parameters. Experiment, see what you like. You tend to find out that, you know, in your personal taste, or depending on the project you work on, some things require different parameters or not. But pretty much just for basic usage, these are good enough. So we've got this image, and it's at 0.24 opacity. So let's try to make this kind of kick up a little bit, back to normal, because we haven't set it back to normal. So let's hit this fade out. There's a fade out button. think it wants me to fade out Hurricane Fist. Oh well, Battlestar Galactica, you're going to have to suffer. So let's see what Hurricane Fist says. We don't need this anymore. We know stuff is working. Let's see what your name is. Your name is HF. Boy, these naming conventions so complex. So fade out HF. Guess what? There's a command called fade out. And similarly, there is a command called fade in. Okay. Eesh. All right, let's reload this. So let's fade out Hurricane Fist. And nothing happens. Why is that? Let's check with Firebug, our favorite friend. It says it's doing something, but I am not perceiving anything to be done. Fade out. Oh, I know why. Because the button is wrong. It's fade out HF doesn't exist, but fade out A does. That means that's wrong too. All right, let's reload this and get rid of this and fade out HF. There you go. Fades out. Fade it back in. Awesome. Okay. Similarly, there's one other command. Oops. Which is fade to. Now fade out and fade in, it's basically, again, a sub-method. So it's set. Fade out, fades out to 0. Fade in, fades out to 1. You can do a fade to, which, let's do it to Battlestar Galactica, where you can set the depth of opacity that you want. So instead of going to 0, my two choices being 0 or 1, let's do 8.8. We'll hit it with slow. It takes that parameter. We'll hit 0.8. And once again, people like this, I don't particularly always use it. I haven't really found a situation where it doesn't choke on not having it, but just to assuage people who are sticklers, let's keep that in there. And let's reload this. So let's do this. We animate images. The opacity disappears just as it's shrinking. Now we're going to show BG. We put it back in, but the opacity is still kind of dullish, because we know we set it to 2.24. Now let's fade BG to 0.8. There you go. You still can see a little bit of opacity here, but it looks a lot more reasonable in terms of just not looking like that gray dull that dull gray is showing from the background. And that's it. That's the beginning of effects. Now again, I am not an animator. I am not a designer. So this probably was a little bit simple, but if you are an animator and you aren't an art designer, I highly encourage you to be creative with this. Go to town, check out all the parameters, see what they do. I, in my job, only do what the true designers and true animators tell me what to do. I can make it happen as a developer, but to actually make something look gigantically pretty on this, my apologies. All right, so jQuery effects, try it. This has been Toy for Educator.com. We're working on jQuery and Ajax. Thanks a lot.